The Chery Omoda E5 range now has a couple of electric versions in it, and in this review I'm going to tell you what's good about them, because there are some really impressive things about this electric Omoda E5. It's called E5, and also tell you some stuff that maybe could be better. But stay tuned and you'll learn all about it in this review. If you haven't already, like, subscribe and ring that bell for me, and let's check it out. Alright, the fully electric versions of the Chery Omoda E5, they're called E5, and it does have two versions to choose from. Neither of them are the most affordable electric car on the market, but I've got some great alternatives that you might want to stick around for in the next segment. But let me tell you some of the standard specifications in this entry-level version that I'm driving here. It's called the BX, and it does have some really good features. LED lights, LED daytime running lights, 18-inch wheels, although they've got sexy-looking plastic covers on them, and on the inside, you've got a cloth trim with a plastic steering wheel, so it does feel a little budget in that regard, but you're also getting a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, 12.3-inch touchscreen media system with sat-nav. There's also a 6-speaker sound system, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, digital radio, wireless phone charger, and you've got other great things, including a full-size spare. That's right, a fully electric car with a full-size spare. That's good to see. And if you spend just a couple of $1,000s more, you can get into the higher spec version. You see the price for it on your screen now, and it adds some extra features that you might really like, including a power tailgate, a 8-speaker sound system from Sony, puddle lamps, ambient interior lighting, black fake leather interior trim, heated front and rear outboard seats. There's a fake leather steering wheel, also with heating, and a power sunroof. So do you think it's worth spending the extra couple of grand to get into that EX grade, or is budget everything to you? If it is, I've got some really compelling alternatives to this. Let me tell you about them. Okay, if you're looking for a super affordable electric car, well, the MG4 is hard to ignore. The brand has just slashed up to $8,000 off the price of some vehicles in stock, from about 30 grand drive away for that car now. If you buy a new one, you get 10 years of warranty as well, so bloody hell, does that car stack up better than ever. And it is putting some petrol cars on notice when it comes to that pricing, and it's also excellent to drive, apart from some of the safety stuff which can be annoying. So the MG4, easily one of the best alternatives to this. In fact, probably the best option that you could possibly choose if you're considering an electric car on a budget. But you might also want to go and have a look at the BYD Dolphin. I've done a review of the high-spec version of that car. I think it's pretty good as a city commuter. It's got decent space, decent livability, does have all the safety stuff, and thankfully none of it's really annoying like some other cars. Dolphin does have a pretty good size to it and a decent size interior and boot space as well, but it might not necessarily suit your tastes in terms of the design. And finally, another one you might want to go and check out is the GWM Aura. That little hatchback has a bunch of different versions available, starting at about 35 drive away. So it could be a really good choice for you, but if you shop around, you might find even better deals than that on dealer demonstrators. So it could be a fantastic choice for you. Decent warranty, decent charging capability, okay driving range for that model, but it's maybe not setting any new benchmarks in terms of boot space, because it is a pretty compact boot for that car. But I think that if you are looking for a little urban runaround, the Aura could be a good one, but so could the MG4 or the Dolphin. Tell me what you think though. Would you choose this over them? I'd love to know what you think. It kind of looks like the other Chery Omoda E5s, but obviously it does have a bit of a different front end design. I'll show you the charging port soon, which is actually integrated into the front of the car. And I also think that this color is fantastic. It's like a mint green. It looks greener on the screen, but in person it's a lovely hue. And I also really like these 18-inch wheels. Look, they are wheels with these plasticky bits. So those are plastic bits that are integrated into the wheel to make them more aerodynamically efficient. And obviously it's got the small SUV size to it. It's about 4.4 meters long, and it does have that tapered roofline like the other Omoda 5s. So let's have a look at the back here. Yep, you've got no Chery badges, just Omoda and E5. And let's have a look in the boot, see what we're dealing with. This one doesn't have an electric tailgate, but that's okay for a small SUV, I reckon. You'll see the figure on your screen now that tells you how many litres of cargo capacity you've got to play with. I mean, there are some shortcomings. You do have an LED light in the back, but you don't have shopping bag hooks. There's also a little 12-volt port down there. So no real smarts in terms of the boot space, but what is really, really smart about this car is, you bet, a full-size alloy spare wheel in the boot of an EV. This could change the game for people who live in the country or who are worried about getting a flat, because it seems to be a more common occurrence these days. But would that help you choose the Omoda 5? There are some other EVs that have full-size spares, but hey, it's nice to see one at this price, I reckon. Okay, this one is the entry-level version, as I mentioned, the BX grade, and you can tell that straight away by the fact that it's got this plastic steering wheel, and like, I usually don't like plastic tillers, but this one's pretty good, and I also don't mind the cloth seat trim. Like, you don't get heating for your seats, but you still get electric adjustment, and they are pretty comfortable, and that's a really nice material, I have to say. And look, you're still getting the things that you would like to see in a brand new car like this. I mean, lots of people like to see. I'm not so hot on some elements of these two screens, but you've got a 12.3-inch touchscreen media system and a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster here. Yes, that cluster does have a fair bit of information on it, and you can jump through some of the menus by using the steering wheel controls. All the vitals are there at a glance, and then you've got this screen over here, your touchscreen media system. You'll need to get to know this thing pretty well because it does have quite a bit of stuff going on. So let's have a look first at your sat-nav screen. Yep, you've got sat-nav. Yep, it's got pinch to zoom, and you've also got a car menu settings here, which you will get to know pretty well if you like to adjust things. And you've also got your air conditioning controls there as well, which you can use by going up or down like that. And there's a home bar as well with more menus, and there's more menus here as well. Yes, you do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wireless, which is fantastic. And yeah, it's got all the stuff you would expect in terms of the technology and the usability, but you do need to get to know some elements of the screen. One thing that I've actually been really impressed with is the fact that it now has favorites buttons that include the driver monitoring system, the emergency lane keeping, and your speed limit assist functionality. So if you don't want any of those safety nannies interrupting your drive, you can simply turn them off by going like that and then going like that. But then you have to press OK, and then going like that, going like that, you have to press confirm, and going like that, and going like that, and you have to press confirm. And you have to do that every single time you drive the car if you don't like those safety systems. And I don't like those safety systems. But hey, I think that for the most part, if you're okay with those safety nannies annoying you or making you a better driver, then you might really like the way that that's all integrated. And I think that for the most part, it is a pretty easy screen to learn. And one thing that I don't love about it though is these controls on the steering wheel. Look at those fingerprints. Like, that's disgusting. Why do they show up so badly on this piano black plastic stuff? And yeah, they're not the greatest controls in my opinion. Now let's have a look at some of the storage you've got to play with here. Yes, there is a sliding cover for your wireless phone charger, pair of cup holders there, another little storage cubby there, and another cubby in here as well. And that has a little vent in there so it'll keep things cool. And that's a nice soft finish. Also down here, you'll find a decent size under storage bin. And yes, you've got a 12-volt port down there. And on the other side, there's your USB ports, USB-C and USB-A. And if you're looking for another USB-A port, there's one up here, which is fantastic if you are the sort of person who runs a dash cam, because it means that you can run it straight out of there onto your windscreen without having to muck around with yucky wires everywhere. Unfortunately, you don't get an auto-dimming rear vision mirror. It's just one of those flicky ones, but you do get flip-down covers on your mirrors with lighting, which is actually like one of those influencer lights. It's actually pretty, makes me look fantastic. And up here, you don't get a sunroof because this is the base grade, but let's jump in the back and see what the experience is like in the second row. So this seat is my driving position and I'm 182 centimeters or 6 foot. I've got a little bit of knee room. My toes are sort of tucked in underneath there a little bit, but it's not too bad. And there's a mat pocket on both seat backs. You also get directional air vents down here, USB-A and USB-C ports, and those are the blanks for if you get the next model up. Those have your seat heating buttons for the back seats, but this car is the base grade, so it doesn't get those. It does get bottle holders in the doors, and you get these Mercedes-inspired speaker covers, but this is a Sony system, a 6-speaker. It's okay, but it's not fantastic, I have to say. You've got ISOFIX points in the window seats, the same sort of cloth trim. Of course, you get 3 top tether points, a flip-down armrest with cup holders, and yeah, it's not too bad in terms of the overall space, and the headroom is maybe the biggest limitation. If you're a 6'4" person, you might find it's a little bit tight, but the thing that I always suggest you be careful with is getting in and out. If you are a taller person, you might find these low door apertures do mean that you might bang your noggin on the edge there. You've also got grab handles and a coat hook, but oddly, in the back, there is no lights. So that might be bad for parents who are trying to load a little one in at night or load one out. Yeah, just stuff to keep in mind. There's not actually all that much to show you under the bonnet of this car because there's basically just a big plastic shield, but you do get a frunk, which is excellent. You'll see the cargo capacity for that little storage box on your screen now, and that means you can basically put your charge cables in there if you wanted to, or something else, teddy bear, I don't know. But hey, it is impressive to have that in a front wheel drive EV. That's right, this car has a single electric motor at the front axle. You'll see the power and torque figures for it on your screen now. And yes, it has a single speed transmission and it's front wheel drive, of course. And it's also relatively quick 0 to 100. You'll see the figure on your screen now, but it's also relatively heavy for a little SUV. You'll see the weight for it on your screen now as well. What do you think about that? I think that it's pretty good, but let's talk about range and charging. And in fact, the charging port is just down there. That's right, your charge port is at the front of the car, which is a little bit peculiar, and it does make me question what might happen if you have one of those slow speed bingles. Would this car be a very easy write-off risk? But I'm no insurer. Okay, so it does have AC and DC charging. It's got a Type 2 combination plug. The AC capability is pretty good. On single phase power, it's 6.6 kilowatts. On 3-phase power, you can get it up to 9.9 kilowatts. And you'll see the charging time expected for those two outputs on your screen now. And it's also got DC charging, as you would expect. So you can plug it into a rapid charger, but it only charges at a maximum speed of 80 kilowatts, which means that this battery will be a little bit slower to charge up than some other vehicles that you might want to consider. All right, so what about driving range? You see that range figure on your screen now for the Omoda E5. That's the WLTP rated number. And if you're wondering about the battery pack, it's a 61.1 kilowatt hour LFP unit. So that means that it should be more durable if you do frequent high level charges to this battery pack. And I think that it seems like a pretty good thing on paper, but let's go for a drive, see what it's like. Righto, so for my sanity and for yours, I've turned off those safety nannies that I mentioned earlier on because honestly, I do find them a little bit annoying on a daily basis, because if you know where you're driving, you know what the speed limits are, you don't need it to bing and bong to tell you that there's a speed limit change. And the driver drowsiness system, or the driver's eye detection system, there's a little camera here that reads your eyes and tells you if it thinks you're distracted. It's also a little bit wrong still. And it's improved compared to the very, very first versions of the Chery Omoda E5 petrol model, where it was overbearing. It was ridiculous, but now it's still maybe a little bit pushy in terms of telling you that you aren't paying attention when you actually are. And also the lane keeping assist just isn't quite at the same level of finesse as, say, a BYD. So I have basically turned those things off, because I don't like them. You might be fine with them, but hey, we're all different. We all have different tastes. Now, let's talk about the drive experience more generally in this car. I am so impressed with the ride quality and the comfort of this car. It feels Volkswagen-like almost. It's got this real, I guess, solidity on the road and a real sort of firmness, but still with a level of comfort and composure that I certainly wasn't expecting. I'm just like finding that this is a better car to drive and a nicer car to live with than I was thinking it would be. And maybe that's got something to do with preconceived notions about whether a Chinese EV can offer that kind of drive experience. And the MG4 is a Chinese electric car and it has that same sort of joyful drive experience. I'm not saying this is fun to drive, but it is certainly nicer to drive than I was expecting it might be. The steering, well, it's kind of a big feeling steering wheel for a car of this size. It has the flat bottom, but I don't know why, and it just could be a little bit smaller and it would make it feel a little bit smaller to drive, but it still takes a little bit of arm twirling to get this thing going where you want it to go. Now, it is a front wheel drive electric car, so you might have to contend with a little bit of tire slip every now and then, especially in the wet, especially if you go full throttle at it. And there are a few different drive modes to choose from that you might want to play with, but honestly, I've just left it in normal mode because that's the sort of mode that I find does the job here pretty well. And you've also got 3-stage regen braking adjustment, so you can make it more assertive if you want it to be, or a little bit more like a conventional car if you don't necessarily want that jerkiness that some people don't like when it comes to driving an EV and lifting off the throttle and just getting that sort of feeling. But this one, it's pretty progressive in most situations. It's actually got a decent pedal feel. It's not the greatest. Another thing I just want to call out is the throttle response can be a little bit twitchy, especially if you're just trying to feather the throttle. So if you're not full on or even half on the throttle, if you're just at the top of the throttle trying to ease your way around, you can feel that it just has this sort of jerkiness, which isn't ideal in low speed situations. And in particular, that's even noticeable in the eco mode, which is supposed to be pretty dull. So it's a bit surprising. Okay, so what about efficiency then? Well, on your screen, you will see the official WLTP efficiency number. So that's the kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers that you should be able to achieve across a mix of driving. Just like petrol cars, the lower the number, the better. And yeah, it's actually relatively efficient in real world driving as well. You'll see what I've seen over my testing in this car, and I think that that is okay for a front wheel drive electric little SUV. It's not necessarily the best. It is a bit heavy and maybe not as efficient as some of the rivals out there, but hey, I think that it's okay. And if you can get that 430 Ks of range, more likely to be something like 380, I would say, maybe 350, depending on how you're driving it, then you'll be pretty happy with this car, I would say. In fact, I've been pretty happy with this car. The petrol-powered versions of the Chery Omoda E5 come with a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, but the electric ones don't have that rating just yet. We'll have to wait and see whether that is applied to the fully electric versions, but they carry all the same stuff over from the existing model. So things like autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection, there's adaptive cruise control, there's lane keeping assistance with emergency lane keeping, which is a bit annoying. There's also a blind spot monitoring system with rear cross traffic alert, and there's a speed sign recognition system, which is a bit annoying. There's also a driver detection system, so it keeps an eye on your eyes, which is a bit annoying. As I mentioned all those things in the driving section, now at least you can set up a shortcut to turn them off a little bit more quickly than in previous iterations of this car. And if you step up to the higher grade version, you also get a surround view camera system, but in this base grade, you just get a reversing camera and front and rear parking sensors. And all versions come with 7 airbags fitted, dual front, front center, front side, and full length curtains. Chery Australia offers a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty for its model range, including the EV models, and there's also an 8-year battery warranty for the high voltage battery pack. And also there's a cap price servicing plan available for this car. You'll see the service intervals on your screen now, and I think they're pretty good, but hey, the service pricing is also pretty good. The average cost over that period you'll see on your screen is affordable. This is a very affordable vehicle and pretty affordable to maintain, it seems, as well. And if you service with the Chery network, you also get your roadside assistance topped up each time. Nice one. The Australian electric vehicle market is about to get more complicated, but I think that this little car does stand out from some of those other rivals out there because of the way that it drives and because it's got a full-size spare wheel. I'm not sure that the price is low enough though, compared to some of those rivals that I mentioned earlier, but tell me what you think about it in the comments section below. Would you choose the Omoda E5 or would you go for one of those other ones? Let me know what you think. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe and ring that bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.